I'd like $1 for every single time that somebody says to me, oh, I think the Retirement Villages Act, which we work under, and the contracts are difficult to understand. Well, they're really not. And the protection that's made available to you is quite significant. So today I've got Danielle Lim from DSL Law here to help me demystify these sorts of things, starting probably with protection, how the Act works, how the contracts work, and trying to keep it simple.
Excellent. So I'm a retirement village lawyer. I've worked with retirement villages for over a decade, and I have to say there's never been a better time to be a resident in terms of the protections you get. So in Queensland, a few years ago, the government took a long, hard look at retirement village law and the protections that residents have, and they strengthened them quite significantly. So what residents have when they sign up to live in a retirement village is the protection of the Retirement Villages Act in Queensland. And what that means is their investment is always protected, and it's protected by the government, usually by a statutory charge that's registered over the title to the property itself. They also have a binding contract in place, and that's also registered on the title. So they have those two protections that work in tandem. In addition, there's a very strong regulatory focus in Queensland. So although the industry is, I would say, built on trust, so there are really strong, reputable players, that's supported by government regulation. So there's a team of people who keep an eye on everyone and make sure that everything is as it should be.
And so I guess the short answer to all of that is that the rules behind the people are so stringent that there's no room for error. In the old days, where I guess some of the reputation can come in a negative sense, it was Rafferty's rules.
Yeah.
These days, not a chance.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. It's not a matter of just meeting the rules when you first become a retirement village. It's checked all the time. There's a very strong infrastructure that sits behind every retirement village operator. And on top of that, operators can opt into more favourable terms. So there's all of this infrastructure, and then there's the contract that sits on top. So as long as operators are agreeing to the minimum standard, then that's fine. But quite often you can see different sorts of benefits that might be offered. And in the Odyssey example, I've never seen anything like it. There's so many benefits across the board, and that's all visible in the contract.
Yeah, well, thanks for saying that. So a question that I get asked often also is security. So when I sign my documentation, what's my security? Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of, if you were to compare this, for example, to purchasing a home in the suburbs, you would have your name on the title. It's no different in most retirement villages. So retirement villages can offer you different types of tenure. That just means how you hold the property. In the Odyssey example, you get a version of a leasehold that gets registered on title. So you've got security in the form of a registered interest on title.
Yep. And one of the things that it's a little bit hazy is people say, well, but how does a retirement village make their income? And there's always this stuff about exit fees and deferred management fees where it's almost deemed to be a dirty term, and it's absolutely not. Can you try and compress and explain how they work?
Yes, I can. So the way that a retirement village operates is really a unique beast. So along the way, residents will pay fees just like they would in any sort of form of accommodation in the suburbs. But the difference is the fees that they pay are only cost recovery. So operators do not make $1 along the way. But obviously things can't be given away for free. It still is a business. So the way the operator makes money is they defer their management fees right until the very end, generally, and the resident can pay that fee at the end in exchange for the accommodation and management that they've received, the services.
Yeah, and I sort of coined a real simple phrase for that. It's use now, pay later.
Yeah.
So when it comes to restaurants and coffee shops and all the things that you do provide that a person wouldn't normally have in their own home, they do cost a lot of money. I can tell you that.
Yep.
And it is really important to be able to get that back. And by the time you recoup that eventually, and there is a profit on top. If we don't make a profit, there is no business. There is no business. There's no beautiful environment like this. So I think some people misunderstand that, and I think you've explained it really well. In general terms, I guess what I take away from that is that all the documentation, all the protection is there for the consumer, and it's a very safe place to be.
Absolutely.
Thanks.